Hey YouTube, what's going on? Snowflakey's Emos here today with another deck profile. Today I'm bringing one of my variants of Blue Eyes Trap Control. It's Blue Eyes Trap Control, but with a small little Orgoth the Relentless package. I found Blue Eyes Trap Control to be a pretty easy deck to slot in little small engine packages that are about 4 or 5 cards, like Orgoth, and also it's just a deck where I can play a really fun old kind of bad tribute summon monsters because Blue Eyes gets a lot of materials out on the field that are free to tribute off during my turn, given that the recursion True Light gives the deck. So I figured I'd just show it off. So with that said, let's get into the cards. So, starting off, let's go over the Orgoth package. I am playing one copy of Orgoth the Relentless. Only one copy. This card is very easily accessible from the deck, so we don't need any more copies than that. Orgoth the Relentless is a 7-star monster with 2500 attack that has a pretty cool effect. Once per turn during your main phase, you can roll 3 6-sided die, and this card gains attack and defense equal to the total number of the 3 die times 100 until the end of your opponent's turn. Then, if 2 or more of the results were the same, you can apply these effects based on which number was the same. So if it's 1 or 2, this card cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects this turn. If it's a 3 or 4, you get to draw 2 cards. And if it's a 5 or 6, this card can attack your opponent directly this turn. So pretty cool. This monster will always get a pretty nasty attack stat regardless, and any of those extra effects are a bonus. So it's just a nice card that finds a good home in this deck of general beat stick type monsters. So that is our Orgoth. Next, we are playing one copy of Dimension Dice. Dimension Dice is a pretty cool spell card that just says if you control a card with an effect that requires a die roll, you contribute one monster to special summon one monster with an effect that requires a die roll from your hand or deck. So that's pretty cool. We are going to be playing a card that does involve having die roll to keep this card active. And of course, we contribute one of our excess Blue Eyes that we can just bring back with True Light at a later turn and turn it into an Orgoth, which is pretty sweet, especially if I am already sitting on all my Blue Eyes on the field, as I often find myself. Good to have an extra use for them. And lastly, for the Orgoth package, I am playing 3 copies of Dice Dungeon. Really cool, fun field spell that we can play in this deck. Dice Dungeon has the effect that when this card is activated, you can add Dimension Dice from your deck to your hand. So that's nice. We're going to pull this card right out of the deck and are happy to do so. Then, at the start of the battle phase, you can activate this effect, and each player rolls a 6-sided die and applies a result to the monsters on their field based on the result. 1. Loses 1,000 attack. 2. Gains 1,000 attack. 3. Loses 500 attack. 4. Gain 500 attack. 5. Half their attack. Or 6. Double their attack. So this is a pretty funny, wacky card. You can use it in any battle phase situation to maybe give your monsters a chance of surviving or turn a normal board into possibly an OTK board. You kind of got to analyze the situation about whether you want to use it, but sometimes I like to use that effect if I want to push for game, and it's definitely a lot safer of an effect to do when your opponent doesn't have any monsters on the field entering battle phase, which is often something you can do in this deck in particular. And just makes it really fun. I love excuse to bust out the old 6-sided die and roll for effects. And that is it for the Orgoth package. So, as I said, supplementing this deck will be my Blue Eyes Trap Control strategy that I've shown on the channel before. I'm playing 3 copies of Blue Eyes White Dragon. Blue Eyes White Dragon, of course, the iconic Kaiba monster. It's got 3,000 attack, it's got 8 stars, and most importantly, its name is Blue Eyes White Dragon, which has it serve for tons of different effects. It's always fun, too, to get to play 3 different artworks. I even got one of the newer ones that I might switch that one out for, so we'll see how that goes. With the 3 Blue Eyes, I'm playing 1 copy of Blue Eyes Jet Dragon. Incredibly powerful card. It's got 8 stars. It's got 3,000 attack. When it's on the field, other cards you control cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. Awesome. We'll definitely take that protection. And you can use each of the following effects of Blue Eyes Jet Dragon once per turn. Of course, what you do with that essentially is when this card battles or is involved in a battle, you can do an effect to return a card on the field to the hand. So that's pretty nice. And of course, Blue Eyes Jet Dragon has the effect that when this card is in your hand or graveyard and a Blue Eyes White Dragon is in your graveyard and a card is destroyed, you can special summon Blue Eyes Jet Dragon from your hand or graveyard, which is pretty sweet. Definitely creates a loop where your Blue Eyes can get destroyed and then Jet Dragon comes out. And if Jet Dragon gets destroyed, we have a way to, play True Light, bring our Blue Eyes back, and just kind of get that loop going in a cycle. So Jet Dragon is a good card to have. Next, I'm playing 3 copies of Dictator of D. Dictator of D is a pretty sweet card. Uh, it has a good effect that we can special summon this card onto the field by sending a Blue Eyes from our deck to the graveyard. That's mostly what we want this card for, is to get Blue Eyes White Dragon right into the grave so that we can access it with True Light or have it online for our Blue Eyes Jet Dragon. And of course, while you control a Blue Eyes monster, you can choose the attack targets for your opponent's attacks, which is pretty cool. Can catch an opponent off guard for sure. And of course, you have the ability to discard a Blue Eyes White Dragon or a card that mentions it and take a Blue Eyes monster in your graveyard and special summon it. So that's pretty good. Can pull out Jet Dragon, can get dead Blue Eyes out of our hands for other things. Pretty good stuff. So definite 3 of, we want to see it. Next, I'm playing 3 copy of the White Stone of Ancients. White Stone of Ancients is pretty sweet because this card, if it's in the graveyard and was sent there this turn, at the end phase, we can pull a Blue Eyes monster from our deck and special summon it. That can be any of our Blue Eyes White Dragons or Jet Dragon, which makes it an awesome card. So it's a good card to have, a good thing to pitch for, any reason, like off of the melody of the Awakening Dragons. Also, we can just normal summon this and go into Link Karibo, which we will play 3 of in this deck, and then just at the end phase, get our Blue Eyes out. So a good card to have. And last for the monsters, I'm playing 1 copy of White Stone of Ancients. The classic level 1 tuner can also be used for Link Karibo, but when this card goes to the graveyard, we can add a Blue Eyes White Dragon from the deck to our hand. So pretty good stuff, gets us plenty of access to Blue Eyes. That's it for the monsters. Next up for spells, I am running 2 copies of Melody of the Awakening Dragon. Pretty great card that lets us discard a card to add up to 2 Dragon-type monsters with 3,000 or more attack and 2,500 or less defense from our deck to our hand. That's Jet Dragon and Blue Eyes, of course. And of course, we can pitch things like White Stone of Legend or the White Stone of Ancients to get even more cards. So definitely something we want to see. We need to get Blue Eyes somehow, so this is a good way to do it. Additionally, we're also playing 1 copy of Dragon Shrine, which is a pretty good spell. We can send a Dragon-type monster from our deck to the graveyard, and then if it was a normal monster, we can send 1 more from our deck to the graveyard. Very handy because we can send Blue Eyes and then 1 other thing, and Blue Eyes in our graveyard is a good thing, so we don't even mind. We can only play 1 Dragon Shrine per turn. This 3 cards is good enough that I'll see some way to get Blue Eyes, but not too many to clog my hand. Next up on the spells, I'm playing 3 Pot of Extravagance. In this build of Blue Eyes, the extra deck is not very important. We're going to rely on trap cards and floodgates instead and just beat down with the powerful Blue Eyes White Dragon. So that extra deck can become fodder to draw cards. We banish 6 of those cards to draw 2. Pretty nice. Can't do any more drawing. No big deal. And we'll just max out on Link Karibo so that we have 1 accessible still. And that is it for the spells. Next, moving on to the trap cards, we are playing 3 copies of True Light. True Light is the basically the enabler for this style of Blue Eyes deck. True Light is like Eternal Soul, but for Blue Eyes. Your opponent cannot target Blue Eyes monsters in your monster zone with card effects. If this face-up card on the field leaves, face-up card leaves the field because of an opponent's card, all your monsters are destroyed, just like Eternal Soul. But it gives us the powerful effect that once per turn, we can either special summon a Blue Eyes White Dragon from the grave hand or graveyard, or set a spell and trap directly from our deck that mentions Blue Eyes White Dragon in it. So all of those are pretty good. Mostly going to use it to cycle out Blue Eyes, which we're going to play Blue Eyes, let Blue Eyes get removed, bring it right back constantly, which is what this deck does. So definitely playing 3 of because we want to see this card as quick as we can. Next up, I'm playing one copy of the creature, the ultimate creature of destruction. This is just a nice trap card that we can set for free off of our True Light. So we'll play one of, and it has the effect that we can target a blue eyes monster you control. This turn, that face-up monster is unaffected by card effects except its own, which is pretty handy. That can protect it from opponent's cards trying to remove it, can protect it from getting destroyed when your True Light gets destroyed. So that, of course, is just pretty awesome. And if you normal or special summon a Blue Eyes White Dragon while this card's in the graveyard, you can set this card again and banish it, but banish it when it leaves. So basically a little recursion means that we can use this card twice. Makes it very handy. If we don't have Blue Eyes as the summon off of True Light, we're going to pull that out of the deck and set it. Next up, I'm playing one copy of that 6. This is in here just for fun because it does work with Orgoth, and I can use it to rig some of the Orgoth rolls or the Dice Dungeon rolls to be in my favor. If you want to get a little more success with this, I just recommend replacing this with another good floodgate like Skill Drain, or there can be only one, both things that you can play in this deck. But since it's a for fun variant, I want to switch. I want to at least play a copy of that 6 for the opportunities that it arises. Next up, I am playing 3 copies of Summon Limit, one of our deck's main win cons. Very important. Summon Limit makes this Blue Eyes Trap control strategy a lot stronger because neither player can summon more than twice per turn. That is pretty awesome because when your opponent can only summon twice, it's a lot harder to get into a monster that Blue Eyes can't beat over. And if we can just keep beating over their monsters, they're not going to really get their combo off, and we're going to be able to run them over. Great card, and what's nice about this is if we can get this and Jet Dragon on the field, this card can't be destroyed while Jet Dragon is on the field, making it very safe and very hard to out for an opponent. Definitely a good card in this deck. Next up, I'm playing 3 copies of Solemn Judgment. Solemn Judgment is, of course, our emergency button. We pay half our life points to negate a summon or spell or trap activation and negate it. Use this to protect our summon limit. Use this to protect our setups, etc. Just very important, very handy. We'll gladly play 3 of it. Next, I'm also playing 2 copies of Solemn Strike, just another very handy trap card for us to play. We can pay 1,500 life points to negate a monster effect or a special summon, which is very handy. Also works really well with Summon Limit because we can wait till our opponent goes into their first extra deck monster, hit it with the Solemn Strike, then on the next chance we can flip Summon Limit and kind of end their turn, making them unable to summon more, which is pretty sweet. Very handy, good card. Next, I'm playing 3 copies of Torrential Tribute. Torrential Tribute, of course, is just a very nice trap card to have that we can destroy all monsters on the field when a monster is summoned. Very handy with this because Jet Dragon can protect our other monsters. If we wipe our monsters, we can summon Jet Dragon out. If we destroy our Blue Eyes, it doesn't matter because we can just bring it back with True Light. And that makes it awesome. Also combos very well with Summon Limit because if our opponent summons twice, we play Torrential, we chain Summon Limit. No more summoning for them this turn. They're going to pass on an empty board, which is just what we want in this deck full of really high attack power monsters. Torrential Tribute is just a great card, very disruptive to an opponent's turn. Definitely going to make use of 3 of it. And lastly, in this deck, I am playing 2 copies of Waking the Dragon. We're playing a lot of spell and trap cards, a lot of floodgates. Our opponent's going to be tempted to Lightning Storm and Harpy's Feather Duster us, so we want to have the punish ready to go. Waking the Dragon does that, and we're just going to load our extra deck with good targets, because if the sent card out of the field is in the graveyard or banished because of an opponent's card effect, we can special summon any monster from our deck or extra deck. So a little different. I'm going to include the normal Waking the Dragon extra deck in this video, but just note that I probably would side out the Geomathmic Final Sigmas for 3 Link Karibos in this build, just to have that opportunity to use that with the White Stones. So that is it for the main deck. Going into our extra deck real quick, I am playing 3 copies of Last Warrior from Another Planet. This extra deck is all targets that can be summoned off of Waking the Dragon. Last Warrior from Another Planet is a really nice card because it just says when this card's on the field, neither player can summon monsters. So if their opponent's board is open when they hit us with the Lightning Storm or the Harpy's Feather Duster, we can summon Last Warrior, and then all they could do is set monsters and we can whittle away. So just a nice option to have. Next up, we are playing 3 copies of Naturia Exterio. Exterio is a good monster to pull out in certain matchups that are very spell and trap dependent because this card can negate spells and traps on either player's turn and not even once per turn. All you have to do is have a card in the graveyard to banish and then send the top card of your deck to the graveyard. So as long as you have that set up, you can keep banishing spells and traps infinitely. So if a matchup is very dependent on their spells and traps resolving, they are not going to like to see that card. Next up, I am playing 3 copies of Raid Raptor Ultimate Falcon. Raid Raptor Ultimate Falcon is a nice boss monster to have. It's a 3,500 attack monster that's unaffected by other card effects. That makes it really hard to deal with. You're either going to have to kaiju over it or find a way to beat it by battle. And there are just certain decks and matchups that are not going to be able to deal with that monster, and that makes Raid Raptor Ultimate Falcon a good target to go into. Next up, I'm playing 3 copies of Blue Eyes Alternative Ultimate Dragon. This monster has 4,500 attack. Now it can't be targeted or destroyed by card effects, which is not as good as being unaffected, but still pretty good. And 4,500 attack, an extra 1,000 attack is pretty nice to have. Additionally, this card has an effect that we can destroy a card on the field instead of attacking with it this turn, and that can come in handy. Just a good option to fill out the extra deck. And lastly, I am playing 3 copies of Geomathmech Final Sigma. When we special summon this card in the extra monster zone, it's unaffected by card effects except Mathmech cards, which basically makes it a, Raid Raptor Ultimate Falcon, but it's got 500 less attack, which isn't so bad, but it does gain the effect that when you do battle damage to your opponent by battle with a monster with this card, that battle damage is doubled. So that's really nice. If they have a weak attack monster on the field and you just want to, rip through it and do a lot of damage. So a good option to have to round out our Waking the Dragon extra deck. So that is it for my Orgoth Blue Eyes deck profile. Like I said, very much enjoy Orgoth as a card. It's very fun and easy to slot in here. Maybe in the future I'll look into making a dedicated Orgoth build, but it gets really clunky and especially just doesn't necessarily synergize with other dice chart cards. So it's just going to have to be played in its own decks. I might be able to find another kind of deck basis that serves as a faster engine. But this is a good way to get out Orgoth, and the Blue Eyes certainly like the potential to raise their attack even more to Dimension Dice. Them gaining 1,000 attack with 2 Blue Eyes is 8,000, enough to end the game. They're doubling their attack, makes them unstoppable. Very good stuff. It's a very fun deck to have, and I enjoy it very much. But thanks for checking out the video. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll catch you in the next one.